Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in-depth into my tight end start or sit decisions for week number 4 of the 2022 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. I would also like to ask that if you guys have any questions surrounding around week number 4 of the 2022 fantasy football season, that you please ask it down below in the comment section. I love talking to you guys down there. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 4 tight end start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins at the Cincinnati Bengals. In this game, I'm going to be firing up Hayden Hurst for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, despite the fact that that team has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, which might be the best trio of wide receivers in the NFL, Joe Burrow still loves to throw the ball to Hayden Hurst. Now, Hayden Hurst doesn't necessarily have that crazy upside to finish as a top 5 tight end week in and week out, but he does get a boatload of targets, which makes him startable every single week today up against the Dolphins. I definitely like him. Mike Licky on my Gesicki has been a big disappointment thus far this season. Obviously, week number 2 up against the Baltimore Ravens, he scores a touchdown and does the worst gritty imaginable, but that's just one big game. Besides that, he's been doing his best John Cena impression because you can't see him. And going forward, it is very hard to trust Mike Gesicki, despite the fact that he is such a talented player in terms of pass catching abilities. Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, wants a tight end that can block, and Mike Gesicki simply just cannot do that right now. Maybe he'll be able to develop and do that going forward, but right now, he just really can't do that. So next up, we move to the game in England, the Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints. Irv Smith is a start, but he is basically the last one in of being a start. There's a lot of tight ends this week that I really like, but there's really only 3, 4, 5 tight ends that every single week I am very confident in. After that, the tight ends could finish anywhere from tight end like 7 to 21, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. Irv Smith is one of those guys that could probably finish in the range of tight end 12 to 24. He's not a guy that I am in love with playing this week, but I do think that he's a decent start if you're looking at the tight ends as a whole. There are much worse players than Irv Smith, especially if Kirk Cousins looks to lock into him, which we have seen in the past this season. Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill are the other tight ends in this game for the New Orleans Saints. Juwan Johnson does see some work. It is very up in the air right now on if famous Jameis E.W. Winston is going to be able to suit up on Sunday in this matchup. Now, yesterday, I would have told you that, oh, they're resting Jameis. He's probably going to be perfectly fine. And even earlier today, I thought that Jameis was going to be just fine and he was going to play. But reports came out a little bit after I released the quarterback start sit video that seemed to be more pointing towards the fact that Andy Dalton might be the starting quarterback. Now, if you are in a deeper league and maybe your tight end depth isn't the best, if you want to go balls to the wall if Jameis doesn't play and play Taysom Hill because you don't think Andy Dalton's very good and you think Taysom Hill will get the shot to throw the ball a couple times in that game, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't say that is crazy. But right now, again, I'm still thinking Jameis is going to play. So I'm sending Juwan Johnson as well as Taysom Hill. And again, you could start Irv Smith, but he's kind of one of the lower down the barrel guys at the tight end position. Now we move to the main slate on Sunday, starting with the Cleveland Browns at the Atlanta Falcons. In this game, I'll be starting both starting tight ends. Now, I did talk a lot about how I felt as though that David Njoku game from last week on Thursday Night Football up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he went absolutely fucking bananas, was a fluke. I genuinely believe that was a fluke. But, and this is a big but like Kim Kardashian, it is possible that in a very positive matchup up against the Atlanta Falcons, in a game that can be incredibly high scoring, a back and forth affair between these two teams, I think you can still start David Njoku. I'm not expecting him to do what he did last week. He is appearing on the injury report. I do believe he is going to play, and if he does play, I think you can play him up against the Falcons, but I just would not expect that crazy high target share that we saw on Thursday up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kyle Pitts, for the first 2 weeks of the season, Kyle Pitts basically kicked you directly in the penis. It felt like, honestly, Justin Tucker kicked you directly in the cock because Kyle Pitts didn't do shit for the first 2 games. Then last week for the Falcons, Kyle Pitts arose. It was crazy to see. He finally started getting the ball. And then in the second half, he kind of slowed down to a halt. But hey, he did decent in that game. We all know that Kyle Pitts is one of the most talented tight ends in all of the National Football League. The guy is amazing. There's a reason why the Falcons drafted him so highly last year in the 2021 NFL Draft. So going forward, you obviously want to be starting Kyle Pitts. Again, I think this will be a higher scoring game, so I think we get a nice healthy dosage of Mr. Pitts on Sunday. Next up, we move to the Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens. And obviously for the Ravens, you're going to be starting Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been very good for the first 3 games of the season, and he's looking like he may finish as the tight end number 1 for back-to-back seasons. Now, I'm not saying that Travis Kelce is some fucking bum or something, but Mark Andrews is going on a tear early on in the season, but it has only been 3 games. On paper, this looks like it's going to be the highest scoring game on the week. Vegas has this projected to be the highest total over-under on the week. I love this game. I think it is really going to be a high-scoring, back-and-forth affair. And obviously, Mark Andrews is a humongous piece in this offense for the Baltimore Ravens, and he'll be a big piece as to why this team potentially knocks off the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favorited in this game. I definitely think the Ravens could take this one down. I love Mark Andrews in this spot. Dawson Knox one time, if you are with me, has been the opposite of Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been amazing, super safe every week, top 5 upside every week, number 1 upside every week, whereas Dawson Knox has been a guy with upside, but he has not lived up to the expectation. It's like when Aaron Judge was going up to bat to hit the whatever if home run to set a record, and the teams are just walking him. He's just getting walked. It seems like you think Dawson Knox has this big plays inside of him. He's got that dog inside of him. They give him $1 zillion fucking contract, one of those hilariously big checks, and yet he does fucking nothing. He is not being targeted as much as he was last season. The Buffalo Bills offense struggled a bit up against the Miami Dolphins, but here, I think if there was ever a game where Dawson Knox went fucking crazy, it would be this week. He's on the injury report, but I also do believe he will end up playing on Sunday. I'm not super confident in Dawson Knox. I was very confident in him going into the season. Why wouldn't you be? They got rid of O.J. Howard, and he went to the Houston Texans. They pay him all of this money. They gave him a boatload of money, and yet Dawson Knox is still underperforming. I'm not saying you should cut him or anything, but I am still nervous, though I do love the matchup. Next up, we got the Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. Dalton Schultz's availability is up in the air, but if I'm being honest with you, based upon the injury that he sustained, I don't even think if he plays, you really want to be playing him. If he does not play, then they have 2 tight ends. Jake Ferguson is the main one. Don't really think you want anything to do with Jake Ferguson. Logan Thomas, just like the whole Washington Commanders offense, shit the bed big time on Sunday up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Logan Thomas could bounce back, but I don't project this to be a very high-scoring back-and-forth affair where Logan Thomas is very likely to score a touchdown or 2. So I'm going to leave Logan Thomas on the bench in this game as well as the other Cowboys tight ends. Next up, we move to the Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. In this game, I like TJ Hawkinson, but he is yet another player that is banged up on the injury report. Amon-Ra St. Brown does not practice again today on Thursday. If Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, does not play, and Swift does not play, which is seeming like Swift is going to be out, then TJ Hawkinson, if he can play, could be a massive target and could be a key focal point in this Detroit Lions offense up against a not-so-hot Seattle Seahawks defense. Again, I really just feel like if we don't see Amon-Ra St. Brown play, that's just going to really give TJ Hawkinson a very good chance to finish as the number 1 tight end on the week because of the matchup. Again, with these tight ends that are banged up, you want to monitor this all the way until Sunday, just because I feel as though they may play based upon something I have read. That does not mean that it's a lock for them to play. Again, I'm as much of a doctor as fucking Johnny Sins, so I don't know everything. TJ Hawkinson is a start for me if he plays. Even if the Sun God plays as well, you want to be playing TJ Hawkinson, Will Dissly, Noah Fant. It seems like Geno Smith loves to throw the ball to the tight end. It just seems like every week you don't know which tight end it's going to be, and it seems like more recently, Tyler Lockett's the guy to target in Seattle. So for me, I'm going to stay away from both of these Seattle Seahawks tight ends. Next up, we move to the LA Chargers at the Houston Texans. For the Chargers, they have Keenan Allen on the injury report. Right now, it generally feels like a true 50-50 on if Keenan Allen is going to end up playing or not. So I'm not going to go ahead and sit down in my chair here and exclaim to you that I believe it is a lock for Keenan Allen to play, or I believe that Keenan Allen is not going to play. It genuinely feels like a true coin flip. If Keenan Allen does not play, then I am more likely to have Gerald Everett raise up the rankings. Now, can Gerald Everett perform in a big way and win you your week with Keenan Allen in the lineup? 100%. But it seems less likely that that is going to happen if Allen is healthy. They're playing up against the Houston Texans. I know the Chargers shit the bed in a big way last week. They were humongous disappointments up against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense ripped the LA Chargers a new asshole. They ripped their offense a new asshole, and the offense of the Jaguars eviscerated the defense, which is supposed to be really good, of the LA Chargers. So I worry about Gerald Everett, but his upside is just so high in every game because of how good this Chargers offense can be when they are unleashed. Even with a banged up Justin Herbert the pervert, I want to be starting Gerald Everett. OJ Howard. Normally, I like OJs because they're killers, but at the end of the day here at the tight end position, OJ Howard is dealing with some injuries around him, so he might be the only healthy tight end out there. Even with that said, up against the Chargers defense, I think they bounce back, and I think the Texans have a tough time throwing the ball. Next up, we move to the Les Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. In this game, I don't like either of these tight ends. Mo Money, Mo Cox last week got vultured by a different tight end. There's a couple of tight ends that Matt Ryan and the Indianapolis Colts want to use, which really scares me off of Mo Alley Cox. Austin Hooper. There's also other tight ends that the Titans like to use, which scares me a bunch. I was someone who was big onto Austin Hooper in best ball because he was one of those guys, like on Underdog Fantasy, we could draft him in like the 17th to 18th round, and I just thought that, hey, Ryan Tannehill in the past has thrown to tight ends. I think Austin Hooper's an immensely talented player, and we're seeing Ryan Tannehill throw to the tight end. The thing is, it's just not Austin Hooper, so right now, I don't think you can rely on him. Next up, we move to another boring game at the tight end position, the Chicago Bears at the New York Football Giants. Now, I am someone who was a big advocate of Cole Kmet in the offseason. I was singing the praises of Cole Kmet because I think Cole Kmet is a talented tight end. I'm not saying he's like one of the best tight ends in the NFL, but I thought he was talented enough to get it done. And I also thought that the Bears offense, aside from Darnell Mooney, they had absolutely no one to throw the fucking ball to. They have the Chip King, Byron Pringle. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother, Equanimeous St. Brown. But besides that, like, are those guys really threats to Cole Kmet? No. But it turns out that the biggest threat to Cole Kmet is not the receivers. Shocker. It is Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus, because they don't throw the fucking ball, and when they throw the ball, Justin Fields looks like Stevie fucking Wonder in the pocket. It is very, very bad. I did not expect this to happen at all. I was genuinely shook to see that the Bears don't want to throw the ball, and I talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks. What is the problem with the fucking Bears? Is it that they don't trust Justin Fields? Is that it? Like, that has to be it. Otherwise, they'd be throwing the ball more. But the problem also is, if you're not throwing the ball a lot, Justin Fields can't get into that rhythm. He can't get into rhythm, and he's going to throw interceptions if he's not in the rhythm. So I don't know, man. Cole Kmet seems like a disaster. I've already cut him off my team, and I think you probably should as well. Daniel Bellinger is the starting tight end of the Giants after Big Dick Ricky Seals-Jones ended up getting hurt in the offseason, out for the year. Daniel Bellinger is an interesting player. I think he could be good in the NFL going forward. He's very young, but right now, he's not a guy you want in your lineup, especially with Danny Dimes, Danny Fumbles, Daniel Jones as the starting quarterback. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. In this game, I will play Evan Ingram, but I will tell you, Evan Ingram is also one of those tight ends that is at the bottom of the barrel. Evan Ingram is seeing targets, and congratulations to him. A huge round of applause. The guy isn't dropping the ball like he would back with the Giants, who we just talked about. The issue with Evan Ingram is he's not scoring, and if you don't score touchdowns at tight end, it's hard for you to be really good. Unless you're one of those tight ends that is like the wide receiver one on his team, like Kelsey or like Mark Andrews. So Evan Ingram kind of sits in the realm of, do you really want to start him? No, but there's a lot worse options than Evan Ingram is kind of how I stand on him. Dallas Goedert has been pretty solid throughout this season. There's been big games of A.J. Brown, big games of Mr. Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper, but there hasn't been a big game for Dallas Goedert. I think that is coming down the pipeline. He's pretty reliable every single week and has a decent amount of upside, especially with how good Jalen Hurts has been playing. So I'm going to continue to trot out Mr. Dallas Goedert. Next up, we move to the New York Jumbo Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this game, I like both of the tight ends. Now, my biggest worry about Tyler Conklin, who is a top 5 tight end in fantasy football right now. I know if I told you that in August, I would have said that you are absolutely crazy, but we're 3 weeks in, now week number 4, and that's where we're sitting again. I'm not saying this trend is going to continue. He's going to finish as a top 5 tight end, but you never know. Now, Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter, is now the quarterback of the Jets, and it seems like Joe Flacco and Tyler Conklin has this bit of a love affection on the field going on, and that was great for Conklin. The question is, will Zach Wilson be able to do what Mr. Flacco did? We'll see. Flacco might be less likely to take Flacco might be more likely to take the dump off, the safe pass to Conklin, whereas Zach Wilson might want to let that fucker fly, throw it deeper to Elijah Moore. So again, this is just my thought process on things. I'm still starting Conklin. I got him on a team. I'm playing him, but I am definitely less confident than I was previously with Conklin because of the change at the quarterback position. Pat Freiermuth is a starter every single week. I don't care if the quarterback's kissing titties Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. This week, it will be Trubisky. Pat Freiermuth has been reliable with Big Ben, so why won't he be reliable with these other guys? It seems as though the team wants to use the tight end. It seems like Pat Freiermuth is a decent start every week, and if this game does somehow go higher scoring because both of these defenses aren't the best right now, then maybe we could see Pat Freiermuth have an explosive game for the first time of the year. He's just been pretty decent thus far. Next up, we move to the Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers, but before we break down this game for the tight end position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Are your best ball teams already cooked? Well, head on over to Underdog Fantasy to resurrect them with their Week 6 through 17 best ball tournament. The entry fee is only $10 with $500,000 in prizes and $100,000 going to first place. All you got to do is draft your team, and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, or no in-season management. Underdog will give you the best score at the end of each week. My favorite thing about fantasy football is drafting. My least favorite thing is sitting up on Tuesday night doing a million waivers. You don't have to worry about waivers. You don't have to worry about tinkering with your lineup and playing the wrong tight end, playing the wrong quarterback, because they will automatically give you the highest score at the end of each week. Underdog also features daily and best ball contests for the MLB, NBA, PGA, and NHL, so you can play all year long, not just during the football season. If you use promo code Stokastic or click on the link down below in the video description, they will give you a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100, they will give you an additional $100, which is 10 free entries into the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. They even have contests for tonight's Dolphins versus Bengals game. Make sure you guys check that out. Again, Underdog Fantasy. I love drafting on there, and I think you guys should check it out. I would only tell you guys to go and play something if I played on it myself and I thought it was fun. So make sure you guys do check that out. Again, promo code Stokastic. Cardinals at Panthers, back on into things here. Zach Ertz is going to be a start for me. I think this is going to be a big game for the Cardinals. The Cardinals have not looked great through the first 3 games of the season, and I think most people would say that. Even Cardinals fans themselves would have to admit that the Cardinals have not looked great through the first 3 games of the season. Cliff Kingsbury normally starts the year off on fire, fucking NBA Jam style, but right now they haven't been the best. But here, up against the Panthers, I think you can rely on Zach Ertz every single week, so I'm definitely going to play him. I honestly think this might be a destructive game by the Cardinals. I'm thinking they might kick the ever-living shit out of the Carolina Panthers. Ian Thomas, he's banged up. There's a couple other Panthers tight ends, but none of them are even fantasy relevant. Next up, we got the New England Deflatriots at the Green Bay Packers. I will continue to talk about this somehow, some way. There's talks right now about the fact that Mac Jones may be able to play on Sunday. I don't know how. The man looked like he got his fucking legs blown off. Like if you've ever seen, what's that movie called? Tropic Thunder. If you ever seen Tropic Thunder and the guy's hands have been blown off, that's like what it looked like had happened to Mac Jones before his feet. It looked like his legs got blown off the way they were carrying him off the field. Obviously, it sucks that he was hurt. I'm not trying to make fun of him. I think Mac Jones seems like a nice guy, seems like he's a decent quarterback, so not trying to make fun of him, but After that, and you hear, oh, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe he might be out for the season. Like, and now he could play this week. I don't fucking believe that one bit. I really do believe that he's going to be out in this game. Hunter Henry has been doing his best Houdini impression. He's invisible. You can't fucking see him. So Hunter Henry's a sit. Robert Tonyan has been hit or miss. He's seeing a decent amount of targets up against the Patriots. I think he'll be just all right, but again, not an upper echelon start. Now we move to our next game here, the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Broncos, Mr. Unlimited, has not been playing that well. The Raiders are 0-3. Devontae Adams, is there any way to go back to Green Bay? Things aren't looking the best in Viva Las Vegas. Hunter Renfrow could play, could not play. Darren Waller's a guy you're starting every week. This guy could be on a cold streak, he could be in a hot streak, and I'm still going to play him because he's one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL, and I think he's in a good situation. This really could be a higher scoring game because both of these defenses aren't the best, so I'm going to lean with Darren Waller. Then the Broncos, they have a million target tight ends. They've got Albert Aquabonum, Albert O. They've got a couple of other guys. Russell Wilson, I just don't really trust, so I'm not looking the way of Albert O. Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Sunday Night Football. The Buccaneers have a myriad of tight ends. They've got a bunch of guys that they can use. They've got a bunch of injuries, but even with the bunch of injuries, Cameron Brate won't do anything. Literally all of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Julio could all be out, and I'd still fucking sit Cameron Brate, man. He just isn't doing anything this year. Travis Kelce's obviously a must-start player every single week. You don't need to do some crazy deep dive, some galaxy brain thoughts to start Travis Kelce. And then the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. Tyler Higbee has seen a crazy target share every single game. He hasn't really paid off, but he's been safe and reliable. And if this is a higher scoring game, if Higbee can find pay dirt, he scores a touchdown, then Tyler Higbee will be relatively useful for your fantasy team and could finish as a top 5 tight end. George Kittle, me Timbers. You drafted him super early on in fantasy football drafts. You are going to start him again. George Kittle is one of those no-brainer tight ends. I don't care how he performed in week number 3. I think the 49ers really shit the bed in week number 3. I think they play a little bit better up against the Rams. Normally they play good up against the LA Rams. So I think George Kittle is a relatively safe tight end to be starting this week. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. Again, if you did end up enjoying, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at notorious FNTSY. I love each and every single one of you guys. Hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.